Chapter 571. Deserves death without pity. Boom, boom, boom. The earth rumbled. Wolves charged out like tides. They were endless like the flood water, charging forward relentlessly. Tens of thousands of wolves sprinted. The wolf group was in chaos. There were wind wolves running like they were flying, water wolves with their snow-white bodies, night wolves who were slim and stealthy, turtleback wolves who were stable and sturdy, vermilion flame wolves who were burning fiercely. 100 Wolf King, 1,000 Wolf King, and myriad Wolf King led the army along with the mutated wolves. They were traveling in packs and were very conspicuous, like the blood forest wolf, with a bone forest on its back, tall as a mountain. The shark fin wolf with skin like that of an elephant, while being amphibious. The frenzy wolf with 3 silver-gray eyes, being a battle maniac. Inside imperial court blessed land, in the light golden sky, there were azure wolves running in the air, howling as they gave off a strong aura. Fang Yuan sat on an azure myriad wolf king's back as the strong winds could not affect his determined and resolved expression. His eyes were dark like the abyss. He was looking down with his thoughts unpredictable. Although the wolves were scattered when he first entered imperial court, blessed land, Fang Yuan had been handing out missions to others and had been recalling the old wolves as well as recruiting new wolves since. By now, he had about 500,000 wolves running below him like the tides of the sea at this point. He was truly at the peak of the mortal realm. During the imperial court contest, he was one of the 5 beast kings together with Jiang Baoya, Ma Zun, and others. After the imperial court contest, just looking at Northern Plains alone, he was the current generation's #1 enslavement master. Other than his enslavement attainment, he also displayed great technique in his strength path cultivation, and was also a flying master. It was truly a shocking achievement. Who did not respect and revere the great wolf King Changshanin? In the entire Northern Plains, how many could actually put up a challenge before him? But at this moment, in Fang Yuan's mind, there was a voice discouraging him. Young man, you want to combine strength and enslavement. That is really a tall order. I would advise you to give up on that as soon as possible. Mo Yao's will continued. Strength and enslavement are very distinct from each other. The combination of strength and enslavement has been an age-old problem. It was not easy for you to even dual cultivate them. Why don't you change them now while it is early? There is no need to do something so meaningless and troublesome. I had gone through this back in my days. You need to know, there are countless paths and ways to be a Gu master. Our strength is not reliant on the number of paths we are on, but the depth of our attainment. Mo Yao explained to him patiently, but Fang Yuan scoffed, arrogantly refusing. Problems are meant to be solved. What is there to be afraid of? Enslavement strength dual cultivation is an age-old problem. That is because I had not been born back in those days. I will eventually have the world in my palms. My name will go down in history, just like Star Constellation, Red Lotus, Paradise Earth, and others. Star Constellation, Red Lotus, Paradise Earth were all rank 9 venerables. In the long history of mankind, the river of time flowed endlessly, but there were only 10 of them throughout the ages. Fang Yuan was a mortal, but he was aiming to be such a person. It was like an ant trying to become an elephant, such lofty ambitions and tone. Even Mo Yao's will was tongue-tied when she heard it. How? Kill all of these Earth Chief beasts. Where is the healing Gu master? Someone is injured, quickly come and help. The beasts were growling, the Gu masters were shouting. A small-scale fight was reaching its climax on the relatively small battlefield. There were holes on the ground, broken limbs, and blood everywhere. 5 to 6 Gu masters were surrounding the Earth Chief Beast King, engaging in fierce combat. There were large numbers of Earth Chief Beast corpses surrounding them. These Earth Chief Beasts had a humanoid body and a snake tail. Their face resembled bats, and their nose were pointed up. They had large ears and a black body covered in flesh armor. All around their chests, there were 5 to 6 flesh whips, ranging from tens of centimeters to meters long. The whips were like hands, agile like snakes as they flung with huge force, both offensively and defensively. The Earth Chief Beasts lived underground, but they only lived near the surface and not deep underneath. They had great value, be it their eyes, fur, or tail. They were rare and valuable Gu refinement material. What was most rare was their flesh whips. The longer they were the better. Whips that were 6 meters or longer were often priceless. Almost none were sold in the market. Right now in northern plains, Earth chief beasts were almost going extinct. But in imperial court-blessed land, they lived in huge numbers. For example, at this area, for the surrounding 10,000 li, there were Earth chief beast groups living underground. Money moved people's hearts. Because this was close to the sacred palace, many Gu masters often gathered in groups and hunted at this place. This battling group was one of them. The Gu masters in the group had hunted down the Earth chief beasts for several times already. They were quite experienced. But this time, they encountered trouble. Although they attracted an Earth chief beast group, there were only 100 of them, which was manageable for them. However, the Beast King was not an ordinary 100-beast king, but an old 1,000-beast king. Although this old beast king could not battle and was old and sickly, it had many wild Gu in it, and had truly the battle strength of a rank 3. Among mortal Gu masters, rank 1 were students. They had just started and were weak, being the most commonly seen ones. Rank 2 were the foundation of tribes, the main source of manpower. They were quite common. Rank 3 were elders. They were the pillars of support for the clan, and were much more rare than rank 2 Gu masters. Rank 4 were the leaders, capable to leading 10,000 men. Rank 5 was the peak of the mortal realm. They were the rarest of the mortal Gu masters. Earth Chief 1,000-Beast King was not a problem by itself, but the rank 3 that it had were too much for this group to handle. During the start of the battle, the leader Zhang Dong was decisive and had great experience, ordering his group and bringing some people to break into the beast group, stalling the Earth Chief Beast King, while the others slaughtered the Earth Chief Beasts. Otherwise, the group would have crumbled already. Everyone, put in more effort. This old beast is going down. We will win if we can endure. Zhang Dong shouted to raise the group's morale. Everyone replied quickly, raising their concentration and mental focus. From the start of the battle until now, an hour had passed. The Gu masters were almost out of primeval essence, but because of Northern Plains culture, these Gu masters all cultivated strength path as well. The Gu masters fought bravely, using close combat primarily, only using their primeval essence when they had no choice to save themselves or others. How? Right at this time, the old Beast King swung its snake tail, causing the air to crackle. The snake tail hit one of the Gu masters and sent him flying. When he landed, this Gu master's chest was smashed and his bones were all broken. He was beyond dead. Humans had intelligence. Beasts had their craftiness too. The old Beast King was really weak, but that did not mean it was powerless. When it burst out its remaining strength, it killed one person immediately. The Gu masters were stunned. Their morale fell rock bottom. Oh no, we were already at a stalemate earlier. That we are one man down, and my primeval essence is less than 20% left. What will we do? Zhang Dong's eyes rolled as he thought of escaping. This hunting group was only established at a whim. Although running away would ruin his reputation, what was reputation compared to death? Northern Plainsmen were battle lovers. It was true that they were ferocious and brave, but they were not stupid. In the past, life was tough, and I could only fight desperately to survive. Now that I am inside imperial court-blessed land, with ample resources lying around, I should be accumulating my foundation and soaring into the sky. How can I sacrifice my precious life here? I have parents and children back at home. Although these hunting gains were good, the primeval stones are only enough to sustain my own cultivation. That rascal at home will be starting his cultivation journey in half a year. Thus, sorry everyone. Zhang Dong's gaze shone for a while, as he retreated suddenly. Using all his remaining primeval essence on his movement, he tore through the air. With his swoosh sound, he vanished like the wind. The remaining Gu masters were stunned again. The leader ran away in battle. What can they do now? Immediately, everyone scattered as morale became non-existent. The Earth Chief Beast King growled, chasing after them. The F***ck. Zhang Dong looked back and cursed. His soul almost flew into the 9 heavens. This old Earth Chief Beast King chose to chase after him out of all the people. Most likely his ruthless attacks and fierce offense enraged the old beast. Oh no, my life will be over at this rate. The two ran and chased. As time passed, his primeval was expended and Zhang Dong fell into despair. Lord Zhang Dong, please run. At this time, A voice could be heard from afar. Jiang Dong turned around and saw a young man at the left. It was Fang Yuan, who had joined the group not too long ago. He had rank 1 cultivation and was a support Gu master with little battle strength. From the start of the battle, he had been dispatched and was used to investigate the area. What a foolish lad. Jiang Dong was overjoyed. He changed directions and ran towards Fang Yuan at him. Fang Yuan's eyes were wide open. He saw the old Earth Chief Beast King chasing Jiang Dong and had the urge to remind him. To think that Jiang Dong actually lured the old Beast King towards him. Fang Yuan ran immediately, but Jiang Dong was even faster. In a few breaths' time, he got close to him. Jiang Dong laughed loudly. Lad, you saved my life today. Your death is not in vain. Saying so, he used his Gu worm and knocked Fang Yuan unconsciously, stretching out his hand and tossing him behind. But the old Earth Chief Beast King ignored that free meal and still chased after Jiang Dong nonstop. Jiang Dong's laughter came to an end. His mood went from heaven to hell. Just as old Earth Chief Beast King got close to him, he could hear rumbling in his ears as the ground started to shake. Next, from far away in the sky, a line was getting bigger and clearer. Wolves, why are there so many wolves? The wolf tide rained down from the sky. The grand aura it gave off was like flood water that was engulfing the world. The old Thousand Beast King froze. After being in a short daze, it shuddered and turned around to run away. Vermilion flame wolves, turtleback wolves, such a wolf group. That's right. There was an announcement. Wolf King was going to hunt at this area. Ah, my life is not meant to be over. I am saved. Jiang Dong cheered loudly after his initial shock. He sat on the ground, his body shivering in excitement. The hope after despair was making him feel great relief as tears flowed out of his eyes. But the next moment, the wolf tide came without slowly down, charging like a waves as it tore him into pieces in a few seconds to in the golden sky. Atop the azure wolf, Mo Yao's will spoke in Fang Yuan's mind with a sorrowful sigh. Fang Yuan, you allow these wolves to kill every living thing in their path, be it enemy or ally. Your killing intent is too strong. Are you not afraid of going against the natural order? Are you not afraid of other Gu Master's opinion? I announced my hunt long ago. These people are overwhelmed by greed. They are like ants. There is no pity for them when they are blocking my path. Fang Yuan replied plainly. Chibi General, he's absolutely right. They were informed with adequate response time. No pity at all. Chapter 572. Successfully refining the Earth Chief Zombie Gu. The wolf groups were like a tsunami, leaving trail of blood wherever it went in the blessed land. Fang Yuan was sitting indifferently on the back of an azure wolf king, turning a blind eye to the massacre happening in front of him. In his mind, Mo Yao's will frowned slightly. She was a fairy nurtured by Spirit Affinity House, a person of the righteous path. She was naturally not happy at Fang Yuan's casual massacre. This young man could disguise his identity and sneak into Imperial Court blessed land under the eyes of Northern Plains Gu immortals. He is a dauntless and crafty person. He also deciphered the clues of my inheritance and refined the immortal Gu. He was not only fated but also had extraordinary methods. Even more importantly, he knows to bow and submit. When he knows that things cannot always go his way, he immediately compromises. This person is extremely shrewd as well. What is his origin? Mo Yao's will could not help but wonder about that question. She had just recently come out of Water Pavilion and resided in Fang Yuan's mind. She had analyzed many of Fang Yuan's thoughts and immediately learned many of his secrets. However, Fang Yuan's response was quick and immediately took preventive measures, making her progress slow down greatly. Thus, Mo Yao's will learn to Fang Yuan's secrets, but what she knew was limited. Among them included the secrets Fang Yuan revealed to her of his own accord. She still did not know that Fang Yuan possessed spring-autumn cicada. Thus, she had no way of knowing Fang Yuan's biggest secret of being a transmigrator. This was the world of Gu. Mo Yao had already perished, and what was left was only a portion of her will. Unable to use Gu worms, Mo Yao's will could only take advantage of Fang Yuan's low attainment in wisdom path. I had just recently awakened. I do not know what his background is. This young man has absurdly firm willpower and is extremely opinionated. I should just bide my time and guide him to return Water Pavilion to the sect first. It will not be too late to persuade him to do good once we arrive at Spirit Affinity House. Mo Yao's will had inherited some intelligence of the main body and immediately kept quiet when she realized any persuasion would be in vain. There was no resistance at all. Fang Yuan's dark and eerie gaze slowly retracted, closing his eyes to rest on the wolf's back. He was not someone who slaughtered willfully. There was a reason for letting the wolves massacre at full force today. Point 1 was to attract the Earth Chief Beast groups underground. Earth Chief Beast was a wild beast. The thick smell of blood would attract and stimulate their savage nature, making them risk emerging from the ground. Second was that the massacre would produce large numbers of souls. Since the start of the Imperial Court contest, Fang Yuan had been using Soul Burial Toad to collect the souls. He had Dang Hun Mountain, and as long as Dang Hun Mountain did not die completely, the more souls he had, the better it was for him. Third reason was aimed at Mo Yao's will in his mind. He was trying to probe her as for the nasty repercussions from wantonly killing Gu Masters. Fang Yuan was happy instead of afraid, not mentioning that he had already made a public announcement, making the consequences clear to everyone. Even if the public stirs and the resentment and hatred towards him rises, so what? He was at the peak of mortals, the famous wolf King Chong Shan. He was no longer the minor character several years ago who had to act cautiously in this imperial court-blessed land where Gu immortals could not enter. His one shout could cause countless Gu masters to tremble. His stomp could shake the sacred palace. With one thought, the wolf groups would instantly create a bloodbath. There was a famous saying on Earth: political power comes from military strength, that a strong fist is power and power is the truth. But on Earth, power was concentrated in the masses. Besides violence and fists, one needed to use righteousness to conceal the truth and compromise according to the public sentiment. But here, individual strength was far above the group. Public sentiment and righteousness were much weaker. Not mentioning anyone else, just take the current Fang Yuan as an example. Who cares about your dog's hatred and grudges? Whoever comes will face decimation. Whoever is not pleasing to the eyes, they can be slaughtered with no care at all, looking disdainfully at all lives, trampling on the public sentiment, without restraints and free like the wind. But in Fang Yuan's pursuit of the great Tao, he had no interest towards casually slaughtering ants. Today's large-scale massacre was no more than a small step towards his majestic target. As he thought of this trip's goal, Fang Yuan slowly opened his eyes. Howl! A beast roar echoed to the skies that a mound bulged up from a distance before bursting open. Mud and stones splattered around as a 50-feet-tall Earth Chief Myriad Beast King jumped out. Fang Yuan's eyes flashed with a chilly light as he sneered. You shall be the one. At once, he commanded the wolf group to attack. Endless thoughts flew about in his mind like an endless drizzle. If one looked from a high altitude, one would see an extremely spectacular scene of innumerable wolves rushing forward like an endless tide as they neared the Earth Chief Myriad Beast King. The wolves suddenly split into several groups like ants trying to climb up an elephant. At the same time, azure wolves howled and flew down, spiraling around Earth Chief Myriad Beast King like birds. Earth Chief Myriad Beast King jumped towards the wolf group and started rampaging. Soon, wolf blood splattered and wolf corpses covered the ground. Its giant legs would leave behind terrifying blood pits in its trail. Fang Yuan had a smile as he observed the battle from the skies. Under his control, the wolf groups advanced and retreated, sometimes slowly and sometimes fast, as they charged forward waves after waves, forming a situation of ants devouring an elephant. Earth Chief Myriad Beast King roared again and again while valiantly charging all around, causing large numbers of casualties in the wolf groups. In Fang Yuan's mind, Mo Yao gave a soft exclamation of surprise, slightly shocked at Fang Yuan's enslavement path attainment. Wow, I had not expected this kid to have so much talent at this young age, commanding these wolves as naturally as breathing, and with such ease like he is moving his arms. He has mastered the art of attrition battle of enslavement path, fighting the strong with a weak force. This is a master-level attainment. But it was nothing more than a slight shock. Mo Yao had seen and experienced a lot in her life, and was not an ordinary Gu immortal, but a certain generation's fairy of Spirit Affinity House. Her horizons were broad and masters as young as Fang Yuan were not few in her memory. The battle lasted for a while. Earth Chief Myriad Beast King was roaring again and again. Its energy was consumed by the wolf groups and could no longer display its fierce might. Large numbers of Earth Chief beasts jumped out of the underground and joined the battle. Fang Yuan chuckled indifferently, commanding the wolves with ease as he had already expected this. The outcome of this large battle was foreordained from the start. How could a myriad beast-scale Earth Chief beast group be his match? Such a large battle covered a range of 1,000 li. But this was ingeniously divided into dozens of sections of battle circles by Fang Yuan, using the weak wolf groups to surround, and then using the strong and vigorous mutated beasts to form an arrowhead that charged forward. The first section of the battle circles was taken down by the wolf group, as they joined with the next group to destroy the second section. The third section, the dominance accumulated and the scales of victory was inclining more and more towards Fang Yuan. Finally, the wolf group's annexing speed increased faster and faster till they butchered Earth Chief Myriad Beast King. This kid's enslavement path cultivation is indeed not ordinary. Although his commanding ability is exquisite and bold, using sharp and mild tactics together, he is still far away from Grandmaster level attainment. Mo Yao thought inwardly that Gu Master raised, used, and refined. No matter which aspect, they were all very profound and deep that Gu Masters might be using the same Gu worms. But some Gu Masters' performance would be extremely outstanding to the point that it could be called an art. These people were known as masters. Master could be discovered but not sought, and could not be cultivated just by investing resources. Not only did it require innate talent, the Gu Master also needed to have capability, but above Master was Grandmaster. Comparing Master and Grandmaster was like comparing grass and tree. Besides talent, aptitude, and resources, Grandmaster attainment also required fortuitous opportunities and comprehension as long as one reached Grandmaster level. They could gain comprehension about any path using their own as a foundation. They could understand about yin-yang and heaven and earth. They could learn about the profoundness of the universe, surpassing the mortal realm and become immortals among immortals. Sages among sages. Mo Yao was a refinement path Grandmaster. Although she had perished, her broad vision still existed. She had seen countless masters in her life. The main reason why she felt Fang Yuan's attainment was impressive was because of his young age. Not long later, Earth Chief Myriad Beast King fell down loudly, having died due to the heavy injuries. Blood flowed out rapidly and soon formed into a pool of blood beside it. Fang Yuan descended and personally skinned it. Immediately started refining Gu next to the blood pool with wolf groups surrounding him. Mo Yao's modified Earth Chief Zombie Gu required the freshest flesh, with the flesh of Earth Chief Myriad Beast King being the best, 1,000 Beast King being the second best, and 100 Beast King being the last option. Thus, Fang Yuan moved out in a large scale and personally killed the Earth Chief Myriad Beast King. The Gu refinement continued for 3 days and 3 nights before succeeding perfectly. Fang Yuan reached his goal. Thereafter, he dismissed majority of the wolf groups to hunt in the wild, only taking the elite mutated beasts with him as he returned back to Sacred Palace without stopping. The battlefield fell into deathly stillness. Suddenly, a bloody person made his way out of a hill-sized blood forest wolf corpse. The bloody person swayed unstably as he moved, and had only walked a few steps before falling down to the ground that he gasped roughly, an incredulous look in his eyes as he muttered, "I am still alive." He vigorously rubbed his face, revealing his face that it was none other than Fang Yuan. After he had been knocked unconscious by Jiang Dong, he had remained down on the ground. That old Earth Chief Beast King ignored him and chased after Jiang Dong. But soon after, Wolf Group engulfed the area and slaughtered all living beings, and Fang Yuan ended up in a wolf's mouth. If it had been an ordinary wolf like turtleback wolf, water wolf, or wind wolf, Fang Yuan would already have been torn into pieces and would be lying in the wolf's stomach. Fortunately, it was the hill-sized blood forest wolf that had eaten him. This wolf opened up its large mouth and with one lap of its tongue, directly licked the ground within 100 steps. Fang Yuan along with the old Earth Chief Beast King's corpse went down into the blood forest wolf's stomach. If it had continued normally, Ma Hongyun would already have been digested by the blood forest wolf sooner or later and turn into a pile of wolf feces. But following the battle with the Earth Chief Beast Group, this blood forest wolf was attacked from all around and died on the battlefield. Its chest and belly was torn open, which allowed air to flow. A Hongyun dizzily woke up and hurriedly drilled his way out. At this time, the battle had already ended and the battlefield was covered with beast corpses. Occasionally, some wild beasts that were at their final moments would gasp for air, emphasizing the deathly stillness in the surrounding. After Ma Hongyun breathed enough, his strength started to gradually recover, and the thick bloody odor assailed his nose. He realized the situation was anything but reassuring. I need to leave this place quickly. Wild beasts will be attracted by the odor of the blood not long later. Ma Hongyun had been born and raised in northern plains. This survival common sense was already deeply ingrained in his bones. He immediately stood up and made sure of the direction towards Sacred Palace and immediately set off. But he had just taken few steps when he stopped. His sight was attracted by a goo worm. This was a wild goo on the corpse of an Earth Chief Beast. The Earth Chief Beast had died. The wild goo on it should have perished or flown away. But this wild goo was unexpectedly held back by a fractured bone and could not fly away. This should be a rank 2, something goo. Ma Hongyun could not remember it clearly, but it did not hinder him from knowing the value of this goo. Good goo worm. This is a good goo worm. After getting it, even if I can't use it for myself, I can sell it for a lot of primeval stones. Ma Hongyun felt a rush of excitement and immediately walked over, easily grabbing the goo worm. Chibi General, this is honestly just the start. Chapter 573. Human Experimentation. The silver light shone on the garden where the plants were swaying gently. In a pavilion, Fang Yuan was fiddling with Earth Chief Zombie Goo. This goo's shape appeared like an earthworm, bright yellow in color, and was the size of an infant's forearm. Right now, it was twining around Fang Yuan's fingers like a wriggling snake. Through Mo Yao's improved recipe in the flesh of Earth Chief Myriad Beast King's corpse, its refinement was successful, but Fang Yuan had not used it. He was cautious in nature. This Earth Chief Zombie Goo was refined from a modified recipe. What would he do if there was a problem? Although he had reached a compromise with Mo Yao's will, Mo Yao was a fairy of the Righteous Path Spirit Affinity House as well as a Refinement Path Grandmaster. He could not put his guard down. But Grandmasters are truly worthy of their name. My Refinement Path attainment has already reached the Master Realm, but when compared to Mo Yao, I am young like a child. Recalling the process of refining Earth Chief Zombie Goo, Fang Yuan was still feeling moved. During the whole goo refinement process, Mo Yao only spoke 3 sentences, but they were the crucial guides, the vital finishing touches. Fang Yuan was able to gain a lot of insight from them. He, however, did not know Mo Yu was also inwardly moved at this moment. Double Master Attainment. I had not expected this kid to not only be an Enslavement Path Master but also Refinement Path Master. Double Master Attainment at such a young age, such aptitude and talent are rare even in my memory. No wonder he has such grand ambitions of wanting to rise to the realm of Venerable, equal to thieving heaven, paradise earth, giant sun. It is also natural to be arrogant and conceited after getting success at this young age. Mo Yao still scoffed at Fang Yuan's goal of being equal to Venerables, but she understood. Becoming a master can't be done with just talent and aptitude. It also requires sufficient resources and even guidance from great teachers. It seems this kid's background is quite deep. Previously, Mo Yao already knew the secret of Fang Yuan possessing Hu Immortal Blessed Land. Now, with the intel of Double Master Attainment, she sensed the deep origin of Fang Yuan. Lord Wolf King, Ge tribes and Chang tribes leaders have come forward to have an audience. Right at this time, a servant reported from outside the door. Fang Yuan collected his thoughts. These 2 had been called by him. He indifferently said, "Let them in." Yes. The servant respectfully retreated. Not long later, 2 people came forward and kneeled, kowtowing 3 times to pay their respects. An extremely respectful and fearful expression could be seen on their faces. Going through the baptism of Imperial Court contest and being at a high position with no lack of resources, under the shade of a large tree like Wolf King, Ge Guang, and Chang Ji, you were already rank 4 Goo Masters. Fang Yuan glanced and asked without allowing them to rise, "Have you completed the things I told you a few days ago?" After Fang Yuan succeeded in his expedition and returned to the sacred palace, he gave an order to the two tribe leaders to gather all their tribe's Gu masters to clean up the battlefield. As per Lord Wolf King's words, the battlefield has been cleaned up. Altogether, Gu Guang was about to report the gains, but was interrupted by Fang Yuan. He did not care about these battle spoils, asking, "How many Gu masters did you arrest?" Gu Guang did not reply this time, instead signaled Chang Jiyu, who was at the side, with his eyes. Everyone knew Chang Jiyu was Chang Shanyin's own son, and after Fang Yuan took control of Chang tribe, he appointed Chang Jiyu as the tribe leader. Ji Guang was letting Chang Jiyu reply to Fang Yuan's question, in light of this relation and to express his goodwill to Chang Jiyu. Chang Jiyu spoke with a respectful expression, his gaze revealing a crazed fanatical worship. People's hearts are unfathomable with insatiable greed. Despite Lord Father's public announcement, there were still many Gu masters who sneaked into the battlefield to steal beast corpses or wild Gu. Over these few days, I and tribe leader Gu Guang combined our strength and were able to arrest over 180 Gu masters who were locked up in the prison now. But there were still many crafty and treacherous scoundrels who took advantage of when we were not on guard to sneak in and make some free gains. I have interrogated the prisoners and have much intel on them already. As long as Father commands, I will definitely spare no efforts to lock up all these escapees. Although Chang Jiyu was kneeling on the ground, his upper body was upright as he spoke in an unafraid tone. His aquiline nose, dark brows, broad back, and thin waist gave him a heroic aura. Fang Yuan smiled. He had no interest in capturing these escapees. The battlefield is vast and is not restricted with doors or obstacles. You have already done great by capturing so many Gu masters. As for the others, it is their skill that they were able to escape. There is no need to chase after them. You can leave now and bring those detained captives here. Yes, this subordinate, this child, heeds your command. Not long later, the two escorted close to 200 captives to Fang Yuan. With Fang Yuan's command, a large hall had been created to lock up these Gu masters. You guys go out and close the door. Guard the entrance and don't let any outsiders enter within 100 steps. If some experts arrive, inform me in advance. Fang Yuan dismissed everyone. The hall now only had him and the captives. The door was locked, and as no lanterns had been lit, the hall sank into darkness. This no doubt increased the unease and anxiety in the captives' hearts. Lord Wolf King, what are you intending to do by capturing us? I am a He tribesman, and talking of relation, He Lulan is my older cousin. Among the captives a young Gu master shouted. Fang Yuan sneered and with a snap of his fingers, activated a Gu. TCH. A soft sound was heard and the young Gu master's head burst out like a watermelon, spurting out white brain matter. A huge clamor instantly occurred as the captives were terrified and fell into panic. Soon, someone took the lead and the others also followed suit. Kneeling down one after another, Lord Wolf King, I deserve death. I shouldn't have gone to steal Lord's battle spoils. My conscience was blinded. Lord, please forgive us. Lord, have mercy. Fang Yuan had a terrifying reputation, and now he casually killed without even saying a word. None of these Gu masters were experts, most having only rank 1 or rank 2 cultivation. Their background was not good, and they were unable to enter 88 True Young building. Facing a rank 5 peak stage expert like Fang Yuan and trying to resist would only be looking for death, so they could only ask for forgiveness. Noisy. Fang Yuan shouted in a soft voice, but his voice echoing in the hall. He casually waved his hand, killing the person that was begging in the most mournful voice, even though they were quite far apart. I will kill anyone who dares to make more noise. Fang Yuan indifferently said. His voice was not loud, but it lingered in the captive's ears. The whole hall instantly fell into deathly silence out of fear. Even the sound of a pin dropping could be heard. Fang Yuan only then felt satisfied and asked Mo Yao's will in his mind. Now how should I experiment? Mo Yao chuckled. This is easy. Little brother just needs to arrange Gu worms according to my instructions. She directly addressed Fang Yuan as little brother, giving a feeling of intimacy. Fang Yuan snorted inwardly, but did not retort and followed Mo Yao's instructions. Every time Mo Yao notified, Fang Yuan would respond by sending out a Gu worm. These Gu worms were the Gu worms to form 6-arm Heavenly Zombie King Killer move. Earth Chief Zombie Gu, Azura Zombie Gu, Heavenly Demon Zombie Gu, and so on. Some were thrown towards the roof and some were placed in the corners. As the Gu worms made an arc through the air, trails of colorful light appeared in the captive's eyes. These people were very anxious, but they did not dare to ask anything. They stood on their spots without even daring to move a little, just like little whelps. The headless corpses of the two captives Fang Yuan had killed were still around them. The odor of blood gradually pervaded the hall as the blood flowed out of the severed necks. After arranging these goo worms to their spots, Fang Yuan successively started to pour primeval essence into them according to Mo Yao's instructions. This process of pouring the primeval essence was quite specific. One moment, he had to choose a goo worm in the southeast, and the very next moment, it would be northwest, and suddenly, it would be the goo worms to the sides. The main goo at times, and the supporting goo worms at times. Even Fang Yuan felt baffled and had inwardly put up his guard. When all the goo worms were activated, the light from them gradually linked together and soon formed a pale yellow lighthouse that covered the hall, including all the captives within. This is. Fang Yuan's thoughts shook and his pupils widened. Mo Yao's will softly smiled as she explained. This is a goo house. Fang Yuan involuntarily blurted out. Is the essence of this six-armed heavenly zombie king a goo house? Mo Yao chuckled. Foolish kid, could it be that you don't know the true nature of a goo house is a killer move? Six-armed heavenly zombie king is a killer move. A goo house is also a killer move. Their essence is the same, so they naturally can be mutually switched. Fang Yuan's eyes flashed brightly as he sensed the unspoken implication of Mo Yao's words, immediately asking, from your words, couldn't all killer moves turn into goo houses? Of course. Mo Yao unhesitatingly replied, man is the spirit of all living beings while goo is the essence of the world, carrier of the great Tao. A goo worm has one ability. What is a killer move? It is an assembly of different goo worms stacking their abilities. It can raise the strength of one ability to a very high level or produce multiple abilities which can handle different aspects. Mo Yao did not explain further. Whether Fang Yuan could have some comprehension from this was his own matter. Fang Yuan stared blankly. Inspiration started flashing incessantly in his mind. Mo Yao's words seemed to pierce through a paper window, allowing his insight to rise to a whole new height. Right? A goo house's essence is a killer move which has solidified. For example, 88 True Young building can be compared with Water Pavilion. The former covers the imperial court, influences northern plains, plunders resources, and holds inheritances. The latter can be concealed and has the ability of defense and storage. These functions were not provided by just a single goo worm, but were the result of goo masters assembling these goo worms. From another perspective, a goo house is just one form of manifestation of a killer move. Since six-armed heavenly zombie king can only take effect on me, one person, why can it not form into a goo house and simultaneously take effect on many people? At this thought, Fang Yuan looked ahead. In the goo house, those goo master captives' bodies were already beginning to show changes. Wah, what is happening to me? Everyone was shouting in fright as they saw golden scales growing out rapidly on their skin. It is painful. It is painful. It itches. It is too itchy. I can't endure this. Just kill me. Soon, they fell down to the ground one after another. Some madly grabbed their skin and tore off their clothes, while others bent their body like shrimps, covering their chest tightly as blood flowed out of their mouth and nose. What is this thing? Why is there a monstrous arm growing out of my back? Not long later, the alarmed screams reached the peak, the sound waves even shaking the roof. All sorts of arms started growing one after another. Some were dark green, some dark purple, some yellow, and their thicknesses were also different. The deformities looking very unsightly. But Fang Yuan had never bothered with these minor details to external appearance. His eyes slightly squinted when he felt the dangerous aura the goo masters started releasing. He felt very happy as well as apprehensive. Mo Yao's understanding of killer moves is extremely profound. But why do others have no such comprehension? Is it because most goo masters and even goo immortals don't have the skill to casually transform killer moves into goo houses? Refinement Path Grandmaster. This is truly a terrifying realm. Chapter 574. Mo Yao's Weakness. Chapter 574. Mo Yao's weakness. In the deeply secluded hall, only Fang Yuan was standing. There was a deathly silence. The faint yellow light merged into one, forming the shape of a goo house. Inside the house of light was a floor of corpses. Almost 200 goo masters died a terrible death. Among these corpses, some had scales on their bodies, some were hard as steel, some grew weird limbs and had a grimacing expression, some self-detonated and caused their broken limbs to fly all over the place. Fang Yuan's expression was grim. He questioned Mo Yao in his mind. This is the killer move that you thought of? Mo Yao replied with unfazed confidence. These goo masters were certainly going to die. Six-armed heavenly zombie king is a strength path killer move. It has high requirements towards the body. Now it seems, even with your strength path foundation, it is unable to endure such an intense move. Fang Yuan scoffed, expressing his unhappiness. This is your explanation? You think I could not tell? This killer move has so many flaws. Initially 50 to 60 people died, midway about 100 had died, and towards the end we were only left with 6 to 7 Gu masters. There are at least 17 flaws. Do not forget that we have an agreement. Mo Yao chuckled. She felt nothing from being threatened, as she replied, Little brother, don't be so rash. Six-arm heavenly zombie king has only been created roughly. It is normal to have flaws. As we continue to improve on it, it will eventually meet our expectations. She replied to Fang Yuan as she thought, this lad is not simple. He could detect 17 flaws. With his refinement master attainment, he should only be able to find 11 at most. It seems that his strength path attainment has also reached the edge of master level. Mo Yao did not know that Fang Yuan was playing mind games here. I could only see 7 flaws. I purposely added 10 in order to probe her. It seems that this killer move's flaws are more than just 17. Fang Yuan assessed in his mind. Mo Yao was testing out his level of attainment, but Fang Yuan was also probing her foundation as well. 6-arm heavenly zombie king was full of flaws. All of the Gu masters used for the experiment were dead. But Fang Yuan was happy instead of being worried. Logically speaking, Mo Yao has refinement grandmaster attainment. Even if it is a roughly made killer move, there cannot be so many flaws. But while Mo Yao is indeed a refinement grandmaster, this is only a part of her will that she left behind. Fang Yuan's compromise was real, but he had never given up on his goal to get rid of Mo Yao's will. Through his current probing, he found out one weakness of Mo Yao's will. Although I am not familiar with Wisdom Path, I had spent a great fortune and bought much costly information from Treasure Yellow Heaven. They are valuable knowledge. Wisdom Path seeks the path of knowledge. It is split into thought, will, and emotion. Thought is the foundation. When a person thinks, thoughts are created. When many thoughts are gathered, will is formed. With many wills intertwined, emotions would form. Thoughts are like weeds. They can be easily created or destroyed. Will can be ever-changing, firm as steel, empty like vacuum, or fierce like fire. As for emotions, they are like water, a small stream when thin, but cannot be cut easily or steered by reason. When deep, they will be like the sea, having great control and power over oneself. Out of these 3, emotion is the hardest to get rid of, while thoughts are most easily destroyed and created. I should be glad that what is inside my mind now is Mo Yao's will and not Mo Yao's emotions. When a person thinks, thoughts are created. When thoughts collide, they either get destroyed or fuse. The eventual thought would be the result obtained from thinking. Then what about a portion of a person's will? Fang Yuan thought of the brilliant part, and he snickered in his heart continuously. Wills do not form by just gathering randomly scattered thoughts together. But will is truly the linking together of countless thoughts. When a will thinks about a question, it will use its own thoughts to fuse and create new thoughts, getting the results of their thinking. Mo Yao is a refinement grandmaster. Her will also inherited her grandmaster attainment, but the flaws created in thinking about 6-arm heavenly zombie king were not due to her limited abilities, but because she did not dare to think too deeply as she had to worry about her own safety. By now, Fang Yuan had discovered Mo Yao's weakness. A living person would feel weakness in their body if they thought about things nonstop, not to mention a simple will. The more a will thinks, the more damage they would get. And the weaker they would be. If Mo Yao was alive, the expenditure that her will incurs would be replenished by her main body. But now, Mo Yao is already dead. Why did her will sleep inside Water Pavilion, only awakening when Fang Yuan entered? That was because her will could not stay awake all the time. One thinks extensively when they are awake. The more she thought, the weaker her will would be, and the faster it would perish. Look at 88 True Young Building, this majestic rank 8 immortal Gu house, containing Giant Sun Immortal Venerable's will. Even for someone as strong as Giant Sun Immortal Venerable, the will that he left behind was also slumbering. Be it Giant Sun's will or Mo Yao's will, they were without a power source. They could not be replenished and could only weaken as time passed. While my wisdom path attainment is low, I have the greatest advantage in that I am alive. At this point, I cannot contest with Mo Yao's will, but as long as I have enough time to stall it out, I will definitely win. After pondering to this point, Fang Yuan stopped this train of thought. After all, Mo Yao's will was inside his mind. Reflecting for overly long would create more thoughts. Although he could use space thought Gu to hide them, There was no guarantee that Moya would not find a way around it. Sigh, in the grand hall, Fang Yuan's sigh could be heard. Moya was a huge burden. Fang Yuan had to be wary all the time when he thinks. Originally, getting into Imperial Court-blessed land and taking a mortal Gu landscape as before was already taxing on him, having to make so many considerations. Coupled with such a huge enemy now lurking inside his brain, Fang Yuan had to be very careful of the danger while attempting to solve it. Every time he thought about a problem, he would have to mix in some random thoughts to conceal his intentions. This kind of thinking would be easily achieved in the past if his heart was calm. But now, Fang Yuan felt that it was very taxing. He felt a strong mental fatigue. Mo Yao's heard this sigh and misunderstood Fang Yuan, consoling. He, little brother, you are so young, but already so hard-working. Why are you sighing? I have revised the killer move. You need to change 6 Gu worms and add in 3 more. Oh. Fang Yuan's brows rose. He said expressionlessly, I am listening. Mo Yao told him the details. Fang Yuan had a mortal blessed land in his possession. It was not a problem to connect to treasure Yellow Heaven and exchange for a few mortal Gu.at the same time. Fang Yuan instructed Gu Guang and Chang Jiyu to secretly bring captured Gu masters into the hall. 3 days later, another round of human experimentation begun. The experiment's result was better than earlier. But there were still flaws. Mo Yao summed up the results and gave another revised suggestion. Fang Yuan acted accordingly. He showed no impatience even after many rounds. He knew clearly. Mo Yao's had refinement grandmaster attainment, but the more she thought, the weaker she would be. The rounds of experiments were so that they could replace the strain on her thoughts by using test subjects. But even so, Mo Yao's had to think of the revision herself. When she thinks about this, thoughts would generate. The more she does this, the weaker her will would be. Fang Yuan did not intend to alarm her. He was prepared for a drawn-out battle. After half a month, during the 15th experiment. In the hall, corpses were scattered everywhere. Fang Yuan kept the dozens of Gu worms used for 6-arm Heavenly Zombie King, looking around and giving a satisfied nod. The test subjects had low cultivation level. They could not endure such a strong killer move like 6-arm Heavenly Zombie King. They were sure to die. But how they died, and what happened to them after they died was the important thing. Right now, among these corpses, some has turned into zombies, some had yellow scales, some had 6 arms on their backs. Some had sharp spiky scales, some had thick arms with bulging muscles, some had pitch-black claws on their hands, created by their sharp nails. 6-arm Heavenly Zombie King uses borrow strength Gu as the core, and the 6 flying zombie Gu as the foundation, with 18 Gu as the complements. Strictly speaking, this is a transformation path killer move, gathering the zombie energy to turn a person into a flying zombie. That way, the Gu master's body becomes more than 10 times as strong and can hold even greater strength. Fang Yuan spoke slowly, concluding his gains from these previous days. But precisely because of this, the zombie energy is extremely dense and the backlash of this killer move is very severe. Even if we had 3 life force type Gu among the complementing Gu worms, we can only sustain the killer move for 7 minutes. That's about it, right? Fang Yuan asked Mo Yao's in his mind. Mo Yao laughed. Little brother makes much sense. That is true indeed. Using borrow strength Gu to borrow the strength of the natural phenomena in heaven and earth. But even a rank 5 strength path expert cannot use it casually. Thus, I thought of using a zombie body as the strength of a zombie body surpasses living flesh. It has great regenerative abilities and complements borrow strength Gu really well. But Gu masters are alive, while zombie energy is the power of the dead. The longer you maintain the 6-arm Heavenly Zombie King transformation, the more zombie energy would be in your body, and when it devours your life force, you will turn into a zombie completely, unable to change back. That is the backlash of this killer move. Psi, life force and death energy, they are entirely distinct from each other and like archenemies. The fusion of life and death is also an age-old question. It is out of my capabilities. It was my limit to place 3 life force-boosting Gu worms in the killer move. If we put more of these Gu, it will disrupt the zombie energy, and the killer move's power will fall, or even completely collapse. If we use too few of them, the time you can use this transformation will shrink, and it will turn into an impractical move. Fang Yuan heard this and nodded on the surface, expressing his agreement, but he was chuckling in his heart. These words from Mo Yao were a suspicious change in topic. The fusion of life and death was indeed an age-old question. There had never been a case of a person being simultaneously dead and alive. The two could not coexist. But Mo Yao was a refinement grandmaster. Could she not think of any other killer moves? Why must she use six-arm Heavenly Zombie King? That was because this could greatly reduce the thinking she had to do. Since Fang Yuan provided the base of the killer move for Arm Wind King, she just had to improve on it. Fang Yuan was almost certain, with her grandmaster attainment, Mo Yao could easily start all over again and think of a brand new killer move. Mo Yao is a variant human. She is an Inkman. As someone of a different race, she definitely has a different standpoint. These days, we used up to 1,000 Gu Masters to experiment. She is a righteous path person, the fairy of Spirit Affinity House, but she watched coldly by the side. Her lover is the great sword immortal Bo Qing. It seems that within her affection, there was also the element of being attracted to the strong. Bo Qing was the pseudo-immortal venerable who split the 5 regions with his sword. Compared to him, Fang Yuan was only immortal. In Mo Yao's heart, was he about the same as those test subjects who died? Thus, in this world, one has to depend on themselves. Only you yourself are the most reliable person. Fang Yuan sneered in his heart, but he did not point it out. He asked Mo Yao instead. So, has the killer move 6-arm Heavenly Zombie King been completed? Mo Yao shook her head. Not yet. We only experimented on low-rank Gu Masters. We still need high-rank Gu Masters, preferably rank 5. If they are a strength path rank 5, that would be the best. Rank 5 strength path? Fang Yuan frowned. Other than himself, there was nobody he knew who met the criteria. Fang Yuan shook his head. He decided to put this matter aside. No rush. I have already obtained the materials for ink transformation. It is time to explore 88 True Young building again. Chibi General with her weakness exposed, I'm afraid. Chapter 575. Entering True Young building again. Fang Yuan entered the central control room once again. As the name implied, the central control room was the important control center of 88 True Young building. The secret room was round and its walls were flickering with starlight. With a white jade round table at the center, there was an exquisite model of the whole imperial court blessed land on the round table, just like a military sand table. Not only did it depict mountains and rivers and the sacred palace at the center, even the small towers in the blessed land were clearly visible. I have returned once again. In Fang Yuan's mind, Mo Yao's will sighed with deep emotions. Fang Yuan ignored her and looked towards the white jade round table. He had first used the guest token to enter 88 True Young building, then passed with high-grade evaluation which allowed him to enter the treasure room. He then refined the guest halt steal and found the glass owner token. Using it, he then entered the central control room. But because of Di Chio inheritance, he chose to momentarily halt his plans for 88 True Young building, eventually refining Calamity Beckoning Gu. All in all, Di Chio inheritance provided both benefits and harm to Fang Yuan. Fang Yuan was able to obtain an immortal Gu, but its ability was quite unique in that it harmed oneself to benefit others, and then there was Mo Yao's will which had sneaked into his mind. Fang Yuan could not get rid of it, and as such the internal pressure on him was huge. But undeniably, the pointers given by Mo Yao's will reaped him much gains, not mentioning the insights regarding refinement path. Just the 6-arm Heavenly Zombie King and ink transformation killer moves along with the improved Earth Chief Zombie Gu recipe were extremely valuable. Besides these, there was also an enormous benefit. Mo Yao's will would be of huge help to Fang Yuan's plans in 88 True Young building. After all, Mo Yao was a refinement path grandmaster who had researched 88 True Young building in Eth. She was a legendary character who, back then, had infiltrated into Imperial Court Blessed Land and created a loophole where she set up Di Chio inheritance. Fang Yuan had his previous life's memories along with the video of the Central Continent Gu Immortals attacking 88 True Young building. He also had first-hand information from Langya Land Spirit, and now, a great assistant was with him in the form of Mo Yao's will. As such, he was fully confident in this trip, but shortly after, his gaze paused as he let out a surprised gasp. He clearly remembered that the sand table on the round table had been covered with a layer of sticky black liquid, and the black liquid had formed into a whirlpool which then slowly entered towards a hole in the sand table. This hole was none other than the location of Di Chio inheritance. But now, there was no trace of the black liquid on the sand table, and the location of the Di Chio inheritance was also completely restored in the sand table, with no trace of any hole. This sight was like a heavy punch to Fang Yuan's confidence. His mind was jolted, and as he was about to make guesses, Mo Yao's will chuckled, already knowing his intent. If there are gains, there will be losses as well. Little brother, You have already taken Dicho inheritance, and with 88 true young buildings might, it was bound to have fixed that flaw. The cave in Dicho inheritance exists no longer, and a small tower should have been reinstated there. Without the loophole, how can I refine the glass owner token into one edge owner token? Fang Yuan asked for advice. If there is no loophole, then just create a new one. Mo Yao proudly smiled. Why did I impart you the refinement path killer move ink transformation? You should have already guessed it. The black liquid covering the sand table you saw back then was caused by ink transformation killer move. If there is no loophole, make a new one? Mo Yao's words revealed the bearings of a refinement path grandmaster, causing Fang Yuan to raise his brows. Although it sounded easy from her words, how should he create the loophole, at least? Fang Yuan, who was a refinement path master, did not have such ability. Mo Yao continued. The loophole cannot be casually created. Carelessly doing it will only awaken the slumbering giant sun's will. If his will awakens, then we will face a tragic end. Fortunately, 88 True Young building has gone through many changes. It is already no longer as perfect as before. Time has created all kinds of blemishes in it. Back then, I chose the Dicho location because the blemish in it was the largest. So it was like that. Fang Yuan nodded, inwardly happy. Mo Yao's will was like a water without a source. If they wanted to look for the blemishes and the loopholes, it would require large amounts of thinking, and this would cause her will to be greatly exhausted. But Mo Yao did not satisfy Fang Yuan's intention and instead said, Little brother, use your mind to explore the sand table according to my instructions. I will tell you the secrets of the workings of 88 True Young building and help you find the blemishes. Okay. Fang Yuan's gaze flashed. This action of Mo Yao was not out of his expectation. She cherished her existence, but it was okay that she was not thinking. Fang Yuan could use this chance to learn from her and increase his understanding of 88 True Young building. The marvels of 88 True Young building were extraordinary as Fang Yuan entered the sand table with his mind. He felt like he was a small boat on an ocean, only sensing its limitless and unfathomable vastness. Every corner and side of it was a lesson to be learned and pondered upon. He instantly felt that he was a minute existence and gasped in amazement. According to Mo Yao's directions, Fang Yuan found a total of 54 blemishes, and 13 blemishes among them were relatively larger, forming into flaws that were comparable to the Dicho location before. This result made Mo Yao sigh. So many years have gone by, and even 88 True Young building cannot escape the damage from the river of time. Thinking of back then, I could only find 38 blemishes with only 6 that had formed into flaws. Pausing for a moment, she then continued to give directions to Fang Yuan. Little brother, now you can use the killer move ink transformation to refine these several flaws. Fang Yuan followed her words, and with frequent shifting of his mind, over 800 goo flew out of his aperture. There were goo worms from rank 1 to rank 5 of metal, wood, water, earth, rule, soul, blood, and other paths. Among these, dark path was of primary importance. Although they were all mortal goo, but for 10 or so goo worms among them, some were already extinct during medieval antiquity era and some even went as far back as remote antiquity era. Thus, they were extremely rare and were completely extinct from the 5 regions, with only some goo immortals having them in their collections. Fang Yuan had to spend a considerable amount for these goo worms, spending at least 1.5 immortal essence stones. Immortal essence stones were extremely valuable and could directly replenish a goo immortal's immortal essence and help them cultivate. At the same time, they were also a currency used by goo immortals. Even during Fang Yuan's peak period in his previous life, he had only been able to collect just over 60 immortal essence stones. In this life, he gained profits from risk. And since obtaining Hu Immortal Blessed Land, his highest amount of savings was 12 immortal essence stones. Now, he only had 2 immortal essence stones left. There was nothing he could do about it. Too many fields required the use of immortal essence stones. Purchasing wolf groups, gathering the intel on wisdom path, purchasing goo worms, and so on, all required immortal essence stones. Close to 1,000 goo worms fluttered about in the air, like a light drizzle. Fang Yuan put all his concentration in commanding and arranging these goo worms, and when the time was ripe, he shouted softly, ink transformation. The goo worms turned into a dark cloud and rain started falling down from the cloud and made pitter-patter sounds as they hit the sand table, turning into drops of inky liquid. The ink drops started to add up slowly and covered the whole sand table. Fang Yuan's concentration was gathered towards a specific flaw, urging the inky liquid to flow towards the flaw. The primeval essence of a rank 5 peak stage aperture rapidly decreased, and the inky liquid was also exhausted by over half before it was able to break through a layer of indistinct obstruction and formed into a whirlpool, slowly pouring into the hole in the sand table. At this scene, Mo Yao spoke. Throw in your glass owner token. Fang Yuan did as told and threw in the glass owner token. The glass owner token sank into the inky whirlpool with no trace to be seen. The inky liquid also started being consumed even more rapidly. After about an hour, the dark cloud was the first to dissipate. After 4 hours, the inky liquid disappeared completely, and a completely new owner token slowly flew out of the hole. Fang Yuan grabbed this owner token that had already changed its appearance. On the edge of the previous surface, a sharp protrusion appeared like a horn. One edge owner token, sure enough, fits its name. Fang Yuan mumbled. In 88 True Young building, after a descendant of giant sun immortal venerable passes a floor, the owner token will advance into one edge owner token and be able to grasp control of a floor. At the same time, the descendant can enter the treasure room and take a treasure within, without the need to exchange. If the descendant can pass through 10 floors, the owner token will become a 10 edges owner token, which allows the descendant to retrieve a giant sun inheritance from the treasure room. Mo Yao introduced. Giant sun inheritance? Fang Yuan's heart thumped in excitement. Mo Yao continued. Right? Giant sun immortal venerable made arrangements for his descendants, arranged the rules of the imperial court contest, set up 88 True Young building, and left behind 88 inheritances in it. An immortal venerable's inheritance is naturally not a small thing. But in history, the imperial court winners who were able to pass 10 floors were extremely few. When I was alive, there were still 53 inheritances left out of 88. I am not sure how many remain now. Speaking of this, even I am envious of your luck. There are altogether 13 flaws we found. Every flaw after the ink transformation can advance the owner token by 1 edge. If you can use them all, you will obtain a 13 edges owner token and can totally take a giant sun inheritance. Sigh, it is not like back then, when there only were 6 flaws. When Fang Yuan heard this, his fiery heart felt like it was doused with a basin of cold water. He bitterly laughed. Using all the flaws? I won't conceal it from you. I only have 2 immortal essence stones now. I can only support 1 more ink transformation killer move. Oh, it was like that? Mo Yao's gaze flashed. While Fang Yuan was probing her, she was also probing Fang Yuan. Immortal essence stones were one of the important standards of evaluating Gu immortals. Fang Yuan might still be immortal, but with who immortal blessed land, he was already treated as half an immortal in Mo Yao's heart. So this kid only has 2 immortal essence stones? Are his words true or a lie? It should be the truth. The temptations of Giant Sun's inheritance is not something normal people can resist. He is a refinement path master. He naturally knows the more flaws he refines and the higher grade his owner token is, the more convenient it will be for his plans towards 88 True Young building. The most crucial point is I am hiding in his mind. It will be impossible for him to hide from me and secretly refine them. Now, he would ask for help from the forces behind him. This brat conceals too deeply. He will have to reveal his background at that time, and I will be able to know a thing or two. While thinking this, Mo Yao had a pleasant and benign expression as she gave an idea to Fang Yuan. There is no need to hurry. Owner tokens can mutually annex each other. As long as you annex the current alliance leader He Lu Lan's owner token, who is to say you might not be able to gather 10 edges? She indeed lived up to the name Mo Yao. Knowing so many behind-the-scenes details, Fang Yuan's gaze turned sharp, and he intentionally said in a higher voice, "You want to make me go against He Lu Lan? Are you thinking of pushing me to my death?" Although He Lu Lan is easy to deal with, the He tribe behind him is a super-level force with many Gu immortals looking after him. Hey, you are an audacious lad. You can disguise your identity to infiltrate Imperial Court, and yet you are afraid of mere He Lu Lan? Moreover, I did not say you have to kill him. You only need to take the owner token from his hands, that's all. Fang Yuan's gaze changed. He Lu Lan cannot be killed. Killing him is like poking a hornet's nest. He tribe is not something I currently can provoke. But that owner token, he definitely treasures it as dearly as his life. Tell me, what should I do? Can't provoke currently. Isn't he saying it might be a different case in the future? This kid's ambition is truly big. Mo Yao acutely sensed the key word in Fang Yuan's speech. As for the problem Fang Yuan mentioned, she did not want to think too much, so she spread out her hands in Fang Yuan's mind. How you take the owner token from him is your problem. Chibi General __/.